So the war criminal and bloodthirsty Israeli terrorist Benjamin Netanyahu has had the audacity to come to the United Nations General Assembly and spew venom. As expected, his speech was full of lies, deceit, justification for the mass murder of Palestinian and now Lebanese people by his terrorists, also known as IDF soldiers. This US backed terrorist cited UN resolution when it suited him, but slammed the same world body where it didn't suit his agenda.
For 18 years, Hezbollah brazenly refused to implement UN Security Council Resolution 1701, which requires it to move its forces away from our borders. The singling out of the one and only Jewish state continues to be a moral stain on the United Nations. It has made this once respected institution contemptible in the eyes of decent people everywhere. But for the Palestinians, this UN House of Darkness is home court. They know that in this swamp of anti-Semitic bile, there's an automatic majority willing to demonize the Jewish state on anything. In this anti-Israel flat earth society, any false charge, any outlandish allegation can muster a majority. In the last decade, there have been more resolutions passed against Israel in this hall at the UN General Assembly than against the entire world combined. Actually, more than twice as many. Since 2014, this body condemned Israel 174 times. It condemned all the other countries in the world 73 times. That's more than 100 extra condemnations for the Jewish state.
Classic symptom of an Israeli terrorist soon to be arrested, hopefully, for his war crimes. Veteran BBC journalist Frank Gardner, my former colleague, was brave once again by calling out Netanyahu's lies, even though he did not say this in as many words.
But he's only telling a part of the story here. Let's not forget that the curse of October the 7th, as he put it, the disastrous day for Israel last year when they got raided by Hamas in that barbaric and sadistic raid, that happened on his watch. He was supposed to be Mr. Security. So there is a lot of antipathy towards him in Israel for letting Israel's guard down at that point. He made no mention of this speech of the fact that Israel carried out an airstrike in April, on April the 1st, on a diplomatic mission, the Iranian consulate in Damascus, which killed 12 people, and that's what triggered the Iranian response. And I think it's important to remind our viewers here that, yes, Israel wants peace, and Israel has been unfairly attacked in many cases, and it is under constant threat for a lot of people. But Benjamin Netanyahu is seen by many, including in the US State Department, as an obstacle to the ultimate settling of the Palestine-Israeli question, namely giving the Palestinians a state of their own. Every day that goes by, Palestinians in the West Bank, what he refers to as Judea and Samaria, are being tormented, having their olive groves burnt down, their cars set fire to, as settlers illegally try to push them out of that ground. Now, in the case of Hezbollah, he's absolutely right. They attacked Israel on October the 8th, the day after the Hamas raid, and that's what launched this 11-month low-level intensity warfare, which has now grown into something much bigger. And he's absolutely right that there is a perfectly good UN resolution, 1701, that is supposed to push Hezbollah north of the Litani River so that it can't shell northern Israel. Hezbollah has not abided by that, and the UN has been spineless in trying to enforce it. But the fact is, sort out a ceasefire in Gaza, give the Palestinians a homeland of their own, and a lot of these problems will go away.
I would have expected Frank to also highlight Israeli brutalities in Gaza. 41,000 people have been massacred. He should have highlighted that brutality and the damage of entire Gaza, flattening of Gaza, in the same way that he criticized Hamas. Frank should know that even Israeli media and experts world over are now unanimous that an overwhelming majority of those killed on 7th of October was by Israelis themselves as part of their Hannibal directive. Don't take my word for it. This is what Israeli newspaper Haaretz reported. This is what former US Marine Corps intelligence officer Scott Ritter says. Frank spoke about UN being spineless in not enforcing its one resolution against Hezbollah. What about those countless resolutions that Israel has ignored? War criminal Benjamin Netanyahu himself told us today that Israel had been condemned by the United Nations on more than 100 occasions in the past. And yet Frank Gardner did not deem it fit to criticize Israel for not complying with UN resolutions and how UN has been absolutely spineless against Israel. War criminal Netanyahu, who should be languishing in jail for life or be on the death row if there was a provision of capital punishment, lied about Lebanese family hiding missiles and rockets in their kitchens and living rooms and garage. I mean, is this guy for real? Is this guy for real? Does this happen? Can you hide a missile and a rocket in your kitchen, in your living room, in your garage?
They fire these rockets and missiles not from military sites. Not from that. They do that too. But they fire those rockets and missiles after they place them in schools, in hospitals, in apartment buildings, and in the private homes of the citizens of Lebanon. They endanger their own people. They put a missile in every kitchen, a rocket in every garage. I said to the people of Lebanon this week, get out of the death trap that Hezbollah has put you in. Don't let Nasrallah drag Lebanon into the abyss. We're not at war with you. We're at war with Hezbollah, which has hijacked your country and threatens to destroy ours. As long as Hezbollah chooses the path of war, Israel has no choice, and Israel has every right to remove this threat and return our citizens to their homes safely. And that's exactly what we're doing.
He makes this ludicrous claim to justify his genocide in Lebanon, and Frank Gardner, despite being a security correspondent, did not feel the need to dispel this myth. BBC has been religiously peddling Israeli propaganda by reporting without attribution that Israelis were targeting Hezbollahs in South Lebanon. And yet, its own fact-check unit today reported that Israel had bombed the whole of Lebanon indiscriminately.
This is fire data which has been compiled by Aurora Tech. They're a German-based company who use satellites which have special infrared sensors that monitor for temperature anomalies and help detect wildfires, which they then usually report to forestry and firefighting services. In this case, they're using the very same tech to analyse the situation in Lebanon. And here are those areas in Lebanon for the 23rd of September, the latest we've got, which indicate possible damage caused by Israeli strikes, as well as fires down in Israel near the Sea of Galilee. Now, it's important to note we haven't independently verified that strikes took place at all of these locations. But if we take this data and we use it as a guide, we can start to pick out individual areas and zone in on satellite imagery. So, 12th of September, before this really got started, in Deweer, it's a small town of about 7,500 people. And this is the same place on the 24th of September, showing these dark grey patches around the west and the south. Those are burn marks from explosions and fires.
That's it for me. You take care of yourself and do consider supporting the independent and fearless journalism of Janta Ka Reporter platform. If you really want to counter the misinformation and agenda-driven journalism of the mainstream media, it's absolutely important that you support this independent platform on buymecoffee.com or Patreon or PayPal. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.